Hi again. So this is the last example of solving quadratic equations from the JMAP 2A that we're going to do together. And this is problem number 17. So as far as solving quadratic equations using factoring, this is pretty much as difficult as it gets. We have a quadratic equation here with an a, or leading coefficient, greater than 1. And it also is not set equal to 0, which is necessary. So we're going to start this right from the very beginning. And because it's not set equal to 0, I'm going to take that 8 and move it over to the other side. So now I have my quadratic equation equal to 0. So if you're solving by factoring, and the only way you could solve a quadratic by factoring is if the quadratic expression is actually factorable. So sometimes it doesn't work. If it's not factorable, you can't solve it with the factoring method. So that's why in the next video I'm going to show you how to solve a quadratic equation with the quadratic formula, which will work in every single case. So back to the problem. I have a quadratic equation. A is greater than 1. A is, in this case, 3. That's x squared's coefficient, or the leading coefficient. And I set it equal to 0 by moving that 8 over. And now I have 3x squared plus 10x minus 8. So I have to use the diamond in the box method because the a value is greater than 1. So I'm going to take the first times the last, which is negative 24x squared. And now I'm going to take the middle term and put that on the bottom. That's 10x. So this is one where at first it appears that it would be the 6 and 4, or maybe to some of you it would appear that it would be 6 and 4, but the 6 and 4 as factors, I'm just gonna, don't write those down, those are actually the wrong sides, but I just want to show you that when I get, or to get a negative 24, one of the factors, the 6 or the 4, has to be negative. Well, there's no way to get a sum of a 10 with a 6 or 4 being a negative, right? So it can't be the 6 and 4. So if at this point you get stuck and you can't see it, that's where you should list all the factors. And it's helpful if you list them starting with 1, so you don't forget any. So I have 1 times 24, I have 2 times 12, I have 3 times 8, I have 4 times 6. 5 doesn't divide evenly into 24, but 6 does, and I've repeated them, so I have them all. So we tried the 4 and the 6, it doesn't work. A 1 and 24 is not going to ever sum to a 10, but a 2 and 12 could. So let's try that, 2 and 12. And I do need the x's to get that x squared term back, and to combine to get a 10x at the bottom. So the top is negative 24. I know I need a combination of a positive and negative. I came out with money, so I had to start with more money than I owe. So a quick check to make sure you have the right factors, because if you don't, none of this is going to work. Negative 2x times 12x is negative 24x squared. That checks. And negative 2x plus 12x is 10x. So now I'm going to fill in my boxes. The first term is going to go on top. The last term, which is negative 8, is going to go on that bottom diagonal. And then I'm going to put the two sides in, which it doesn't matter what order you put them in. So now this is where, and it doesn't matter where you start off with, either the verticals or horizontals, where you pull out the greatest common factor. I generally start in this corner right here, and I know that at least is always going to produce an x as a common factor. So 3x squared and a negative 2x only have an x in common. So I have now that corner being an x, this has to be a 3x, so that when I multiply 3x times an x, I get 3x squared back. So that's going to be a 3x. This has to be a 4, because you pull a 3x out of a 12x and you get 4. That's going to be a 4 as well. So 4 times negative 2 is 8, or 4 divides into negative 8 negative 2 times, and then that works out, so I have my correct factors. So I have 3x minus 2 times the quantity x plus 4. That's equal to 0, and now I just have to set my factors equal to 0. And that solves my quadratic equation. So I add 2 to both sides and divide by 3. So one of the x's that when you plug in to the quadratic equation will be 2/3. That will get you your 0. And the other one's going to be negative 4. So remember, these are called your zeros. They're also called your roots. They are called your solutions, or they are called your x-intercepts. They all mean the same thing. They are the values, the two values that when you plug them into this quadratic equation, you will get a 0, or your x-intercepts.